Hi, I'm Beth Wells, and this is Theater Thursdays. Today we're talking with Susan McMillan, production manager at the Clarence Brown Theater. Hi, Susan.
Hi, Laura Beth, and hello, everyone. It's really nice to be with you today.
Hello again. I'm Beth Wells, and this is Theater Thursdays. We're still talking about Blithe Spirit. I'm coming to you from Knoxville, Tennessee, the native lands of the Yuchi and Muskogee Creek people, as well as the Cherokee Nations. I'm an adjunct professor at the University of Tennessee, as well as an actor with the Clarence Brown Theater, and I played Mrs. Bradman in Blithe Spirit. Today, I'm so excited to talk to Susan McMillan. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Susan.
Well, hello, and it's nice to see you again. I am Susan McMillan. I'm the production manager of the Clarence Brown Theater and the Department of Theater. I also teach stage management within the department.
Wonderful. So tell us a little bit about, I think probably a lot of our audience doesn't know even what a production manager is. Tell us about what your job entails. What is a production manager?
Well, it's a good question, and it's a hard question to answer quickly, but I'll do my best to give you sort of the nutshell version, if you will. I think a lot of what one would say about a production manager is that you are there to ensure that each and every show of a season is realized as close as possible to both the director and the designer's wishes and desires. But also then within the time frame you have, the budgets you have, and that you're doing it all safely. So safety is also a big part of my job.
And how do you accomplish that? I know, I mean, I've been in production meetings before, but I know there's also shop head meetings. And talk us through that process of how does that collaboration work, and how do you, as the production manager, facilitate that collaboration?
Yes, so I think there's different phases, of course, to each and every show, and I do think of myself and any production manager as a facilitator.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not physically doing a lot of the work. I'm not building the sets. I'm not acting in the piece. I'm not putting costumes together. I am hopefully making sure that everybody working on the production has what they need, that they have the information that they need, that they have the materials, supplies, personnel that they need, that they have the drawings that they need, that the shops know what the intent is of the designers for the all of the designs that they're actually realizing. And I do this for every single area of the theater. So for the scene shop, lighting, costumes, sound, projections, stage management, the design team itself, I'm sort of there to help facilitate all of that. One of the main ways I look at how to do this is by planning. I do a lot of planning.
When did you start planning for Blithe Spirit? Blithe Spirit, we're coming up, we were performing now. It's been a year. We were in production right now, which is the last show I did before everything shut down. So when did you start planning?
So this particular show, we started about a year and a half in advance. So the season was decided upon about July of 2018, and the show opened the end of January, early February of 2020. So my work on it started around July, the summer of 2018. There's sort of a whole sequence of events that will happen. Once the season is selected, I'll put together a season calendar. That's putting all the shows together. When are the performances? When is first rehearsal for each show? You know, when can we get into a space? When do we have rehearsal spaces available? When are we going to start technical rehearsals? When can we move shows onto the stage? So I'll put together a season calendar. The season calendar for that particular year with Blithe Spirit, the first version came out in December of 2018. I continued to work on it through August. The last version, which was version number 9, came out in August of 2019. And then from that, I will then start to narrow down each show. So for Blithe Spirit, we then started into looking at the design phase. So that's the next kind of phase for each show that you're going to work on. The design phase is once the director and the designers are put together, you have usually it's between 3 and 6 months. And you will have a series of design meetings that I will put together. I will look at everybody's schedule and see when these teams can get together, and they'll start talking about the show and making their designs. From the first design meeting, where we're just talking in general about the show, the director's going to talk about what their vision is for the show, all the way to the final design meeting where we actually get the designs in hand. I need to be sure everybody's sort of working towards that final goal. So there are a set of initial designs that come in the middle of that. Our first design meeting for Blithe Spirit was August 30th of 2019. So we had about 2.5 months for this show, which is a little bit on the short side. Within those 2.5 months, we had 4 design meetings. Costume and scenic design, final designs came in December, or excuse me, mid-November of 2019. And then we began in early January. We started rehearsals. We started the builds in December themselves of 2019. We moved the rehearsal to the stage the 3rd week of January. So very quickly after we got Christmas Carol done and out of the theater. And by the 3rd week, we were moving actors on stage. And the 4th week, we went into technical rehearsals. And then we opened the show on February 7th. So there's, it's a pretty tight build time and time to get the show into the space. During rehearsal period, we do weekly production meetings so that our design team and our shop supervisors are all talking to each other the entire build time and rehearsal time, so that information that might affect costumes is being talked about, and the lighting designer might hear that and say, oh, gosh, well, that's going to affect what I'm going to be doing with lights at that moment. So it's such a collaborative art that all of these meetings are really important to be talking with each other every single, at least week, on a weekly basis.
It's so fascinating. And you're exactly right. I like that collaboration is what makes that final product. And the audience just enjoys the work of all of these collaborators. And you, as the production manager, have made all of the people talk to each other, which is beautiful. Talk to me a little bit about how you came to be a production manager. What is your trajectory? Because I know that there's probably a lot of people out there who are like, this sounds really interesting to me. How would I go about doing this? What's your personal story? How did you get here?
Well, my background is actually in science. And I did come through stage management. I might start with that most production managers you will see either come through the technical side of theater, such as technical directors moving on into production management, or they come up through stage management. And that was my route within the theater world itself. But my entire route actually began as a youngster. I was going to be a veterinarian. I'm sure many of you can relate to that. And I just knew that's what I wanted to do. So I went off to college. I went to the University of Oregon, where I started my science studies. I chose that school because it also had a school of music, and I play the cello, and I was playing around with the idea of a degree in music itself. So I wanted to start where there also was a school of music. I got very much involved in the science world there. I did transfer then to Oregon State University 2 years later, still at that point thinking about veterinary medicine, and they had a veterinary school there, so I could do the animal science courses that I needed. And I had given up sort of the idea of music as a career for me, but of course I always had that art side in me. And so I was really then pursuing both science and veterinary medicine. Veterinary medicine sort of fell off the wayside for me, and I really then began focusing on science. Really, biochemistry was my main thrust. I did. I was graduating. I graduated with a degree both in biology and a joint degree in biochemistry / biophysics. I thought in my last year of school, as a scientist, I'd be presenting papers or research, any of those kinds of things, and it terrified me to speak in front of even a couple of people. So I took a speech class, thinking that might help. That particular class didn't do too much for me, so I thought, well, I'm going to take an acting class. I didn't know anything about theater other than I had played in the pit orchestra for some shows in high school. So I took this acting class and the bug bit me. You will hear that from many, many people in the theater world. The bug bites you and there's no looking back. Well, I just found my passion in theater, and I found it really pretty fast. One quick story I'd love to share about that is my acting teacher at Oregon State University was Charlotte Hedrick. Many of you watching this actually may know Charlotte Hedrick, as she's from Knoxville. She's an alum from the graduate program here. And I had no idea, of course, at the time, even when I came here, I didn't know until I'd already taken the job. So it's a small world in theater. We talk about that all the time.
It really is.
Yeah, so Charlotte was such an inspiration to me, and she made theater so interesting and exciting and accessible and inclusive. And I thought, gosh, there's so much about theater I still want to know before I go on and be a scientist. So with the help of my family, I stayed another year and just did theater. I acted, I directed, I stage managed, I built sets, I ran lights. I did sort of the whole gamut. I learned very quickly I was not comfortable on stage. Please don't ever put me on stage again. And
I learned the same thing when I was an undergrad.
Do it.
I learned the same thing. I very quickly learned. I remember I had a costume design class with Bill Black, and I had to make a vest, and it was a horrible vest. And I learned very quickly, it's like, this is not for me.
No. But I'm glad I tried it, and I think trying
exactly
is important. Because you just never know what may just float your boat. I know that's a very old saying, and that certainly dates me. But, you just never know. If you had told me in college, early years, that I'd be a professional stage manager and then a professional production manager, I would have laughed at you. But here I am, and I'm doing the work I love, and I have no regrets, and I love being with the art every single day and the artisans that make it happen.
Oh, I love that story so much, because you're right, all from a single class.
Yes.
And I think that especially, I know that students watch these videos. I know I share them with my Theater 100 students, and yeah, take a class, and who knows where it may lead. And you're exactly right. Even if you don't end up doing theater as a profession, there's so many elements of theater classes that help you present papers, write for grants, present research. It's truly, I love hearing that story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here with us.
Thank you so very much. It's been lovely.
I'm Laura Beth Wells. This is Theater Thursdays. Thank you for joining us this month as we've been talking about Blithe Spirit. We'll see you next time. Bye.